You have a 24-hour window to ride your motorbike or drive your car. Excluding getting to the start point or returning from the end, where and when would you go? Well, whilst you ponder that, let me offer you a suggestion. I didn't have a pre-arranged starting point. I was winging it up through Sweden in late June, with one intention: to ride through the night and experience the midnight sun like never before. I'd knocked out 1,000 miles in the last 2 days, travelling from Copenhagen in Denmark, and was now in the relative wilderness of the Älvsbyn municipality of northern Sweden, about 60 miles south of the Arctic Circle. In this neck of the woods, premier inns are not around every corner. In fact, I struggled to find accommodation of any kind, despite a detailed examination of my Booking.com and Airbnb apps. So it was with great relief that late in the day I stumbled across the excellent Hotel Storforsen. Yes, a tad pricey, but an excellent starting point for tomorrow's, and as it turned out, a substantial amount of the day after, ride. Actually, it was the dramatic wide waterfall that first came into view, which made me think, I'm stopping to take a photo of that. Then the campsite emerged, which gave me further hope, even though I didn't have a tent. And finally, the hotel, which made me think, I'm staying there no matter what the cost. I only hope they have a room available. So as luck would have it, I was sorted for the night and pondered the big ride ahead. The plan was to leave the hotel as late as possible the next morning and keep riding through the night. I was fortunate. The weather was exceptional, actually exceptionally hot for these parts. I checked out at 11 a.m, loaded the bike in the 27C shade and set off at 11:30 a.m. First stop, a photo shoot as I crossed the polar circle. The weather and environment was perfect for the mosquitoes. Obviously not a problem when moving, but the moment I stopped, they definitely were. But certainly not enough to hinder my enjoyment of this amazing road trip. It was a dream to ride great quality A roads at a very relaxing speed, probably mainly around 60 miles an hour. I was conscious of the draconian measures in place for speeding, particularly in Norway, but the chance of getting caught in this wilderness was fairly remote. However, it's not a bad idea to have that in the back of your mind. There were some sections of road which were unmade, but easy enough to deal with, providing I stayed in the gravel compacted tyre tracks made by other vehicles. But one thing that gets on my pip is adventure bike riders standing on their pegs when there's no need. The three coming the other way on one section should have felt embarrassed seeing a cruiser heading north with his bum firmly planted on the seat. And don't get me going on the subject of waving. Grumble out of the way, I suppose everybody to their own. Back to the ride. After the off-road section, it was time for a stop at Gällivare, or however you pronounce it. I was now just 120 miles south of the Finnish border, the same distance I'd just come, and had been on the road for 3 hours. I'd never been into Finland before, but this was the briefest of visits, lasting only 60 miles of more trees interspersed with the occasional lake. I was now officially in Lapland, which really wasn't any different from the lands either side. I loved the remoteness of the place. I could go for mile after mile without seeing another soul, just trees, lakes and wildlife. Perfection. Apart from the mosquito wildlife, but, like I said before, irrelevant so long as you're mobile. Once I crossed the border into Norway, I had 300 miles under the wheels, and it would be somewhere around 8 p.m. I suppose it was about now that I started to ponder the North Cape. I certainly wanted to ride through the night. It was 100 miles to Alta, a sort of decision place, and a further 150 miles beyond there to the Cape. I'd make Alta in about 2 hours riding, even with leisurely stops would only take me to 11 p.m, which it did. Nearly 12 hours on the road, but that wasn't riding through the night. and that's what I was determined to do. So that was it, the North Cape. My only concern was fuel. With the bike having a maximum range of 170 miles, I suppose I had a little range anxiety, especially riding through the night. There's a petrol station at Alta, but it was 300-mile round trip to get back there. Yes, I could get to the North Cape, but could I get back? I needn't have worried, as all the fuel stations in these remote parts provide 24-hour unattended service, so it wasn't a problem at all, and I always started to look to top up once 100 miles were passed. I arrived at the North Cape at 4 a.m. No mosquitoes because it was freezing, 9°C with a cold wind. I'd taken a tip from YouTuber Leah Reek, I don't know how you pronounce her surname, R-I-E-C-K, of Got to Go fame, who gave the tip of how to get your bike in shot by the globe. Go when the tourist centre is shut and ride between the rocks. Well, I wasn't the only one with that idea. Every 15 minutes, bikers were rolling up with the same idea. After the obligatory photo, I layered up with all the layers I had, and now, with more skins on than an onion, headed off, in the only direction I could, south back down the same road. I wasn't done yet though, even though I'd racked up 540 miles and had been on the road for 16 hours or so. It wasn't until 5:30 a.m. that tiredness really hit me. I found a hollow at the side of the road and zonked out for a whole 15 minutes until my snore woke me up. Back on the bike, in the sun, I made it back to the garage and cafe in Alta, refueled the bike and me, then headed west. By 9:30 a.m. I was knackered again, so parked up in a lay-by and just lay on the road by the bike for another 15 minutes. Fully refreshed, I was off again until I decided to call it a day, night, day, at the small fishing village of Sorkjossen. 26 hours on the road, 810 miles, not a dual carriageway, motorway, freeway, highway in sight, just a lovely A-class road through nature in total daylight. What more could you ask for? It's strange being up here at 11:30 at night, staying for a few hours. But yeah, that has to be done.